So the jobs reports just keep getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, well, they're reassuring us pretty well. I feel reassured, as you will when you see Scott Bessent's interviews from this morning. Fairly weak. Wall Street reacts to August jobs report miss with just 22,000 added. So this is somebody who's actually recruits for life sciences talking about the application process that she's overseeing these days.
I'm a recruiter and I work in the life sciences industry. I posted a position yesterday on LinkedIn for a data scientist role. The role's remote. It filters out anyone that doesn't live in the US, has knockout questions for people just to make sure that they meet the qualifications for the role. So, active applications, I log in today, over 600. Taking a look through all of the applications, every single person is qualified. I have to go through and reject over 600 people for a job that these people probably well deserve because our market is crashing. I've never seen anything like this in the 11 years that I've been recruiting. The job market is awful right now.
So there you go from someone on the inside. The
Country is
U
hot. We're hot.
Yeah, this country it was dead a year ago. Now it's hot. Hot.
It's hot.
The US economy added just 22,000 jobs in August, a dismal print that reinforced signs of a slowing labor market already flagged in July. Friday's release from the Bureau of Labor Statistics not only showed weaker than expected hiring, but revisions that erased 279,000 jobs from May through July, including the first post pandemic payroll decline, with June's employment figure turning negative at 13,000. Other indicators reinforced the slowdown. The latest JOLTS report also showed there are now more unemployed Americans than open jobs for the first time since 2021, a key signal that demand for labor is cooling. Meanwhile, ADP reported just 54,000 private sector jobs added in August, nearly half of July's total, and well below estimates. Weekly jobless claims also climbed to their highest level since June. And although ISM data signaled an uptick in services activity, hiring in that sector shrank for a third straight month. So here's your manufacturing sector. We're bringing back manufacturing, right? Oh, the manufacturing sector has lost 42,000 jobs
Mm.
since April 2025. That's how hot we are. We're very hot. This is Heather Long. She is the chief economist for the Navy Bank, which is a credit union for service members. Look at how many industries have lost jobs in the past 3 months. Mining, 13,000. Construction, 10,000. Manufacturing, 31,000. Information, 15,000. Business professional, 51,000. Federal government, 34,000. Thanks, Elon. Finance, zero job gains.
Wow.
The US job market is almost entirely dependent on healthcare. That's not healthy for the economy. And the only reason that's growing is because of the boomers, right? They're still hanging on with their Time Life box sets and their Alzheimer's. Uh, so here you can see the chart she included with that tweet mining and logging, construction, manufacturing. You can see almost everything is on the left side. Even things on the right side are mostly weak, like retail trade, transportation, and warehousing. Professional and business services, that's the long green line on the left side towards the bottom. And then, yep, private education and health services, that's the big pink one going to the right, 4 slots up. That's the only thing with strong job growth. Again, I mean, I'm guessing, but I would imagine that has to do with the aging boomer population. And here you see US labor market continues summer slowdown. You can see the unemployment rate creeping up, getting up towards 4.5% now. This is Bob Heineman shared this chart. History shows 12 out of 12 times since 1947, when unemployment rises, it rises hard and it rises fast. This time will not be different. And you can see all those spikes there. Of course, the biggest one during COVID, that's an unusual event that doesn't really fit normal economic patterns. But if you look at all the other ones, looks like there's something to that. So Scott Bessent went on Meet the Press this morning with Chris Welker, and he put everyone's mind completely at ease. It's amazing what you can do these days. All right, so here's his first banger here, talking about his prowess at betting against Goldman Sachs as evidence that he's right and they're wrong.
Things are so bad. Why was the GDP 3.3%? Why is the stock market at a new high? Because, with President Trump, we care both about big companies and small companies. And you're quoting big companies, but the big company index, the S&P, is at a new high.
Hasbro says they're going to have to increase their prices. Goldman Sachs says 86% of the tariff revenue collected so far has been paid by American businesses and consumers. So just bottom line, Mr. Secretary, do you acknowledge that these tariffs are a tax on American consumers?
No, I don't.
Even though you have companies saying they are going to have to increase prices, and given the fact that 86% of these tariffs so far have been paid by Americans.
You're quoting Goldman Sachs. So
yes, Goldman Sachs, correct.
I made
Which I said, yeah.
I made a good career trading against Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, I shorted Goldman Sachs. So you know what else he shorted? This is what's always funny to me about people who support Donald Trump, because honestly, I thought about this today when I was putting together this segment. I'm pretty positive I had never heard about George Soros crashing the British pound until a lot of MAGA people told me about it. I'm almost positive that's where I found out about that. And Scott Bessent was the person who executed the plan. 1992, George Soros forced the UK to devalue the pound. Scott Bessent was a leading member of the team whose bet on the Black Wednesday collapse of the British pound garnered over $1 billion for the firm. So immediately when Trump picked that guy for Treasury Secretary, shouldn't that have made Trump supporters run? Wow, man, you got like George Soros's guy who crashed the British pound, one of these infamous incidents that they always point to demonstrate how evil George Soros is. That doesn't tell you that Trump is a front man for the same interests that you claim to hate, that he made this guy the Treasury Secretary, the guy who crashed the British pound for George Soros. Amazing. So he goes on. She asks him specifically about John Deere, which, along with a lot of other companies, are raising the alarm bells about these tariffs because a lot of materials they need, like steel, are about to get a lot more expensive.
Moving, though, because I want to talk about what U.S. companies are saying right now, Mr. Secretary. The New York Times wrote this about John Deere, the impact that tariffs are having on that company. Quote, last month, John Deere said net income in its most recent quarter was down 29% from a year earlier. Higher tariffs have cost the company $300 million so far, with nearly another $300 million expected by the end of the year. This summer, the company laid off 238 employees across factories in Illinois and Iowa. What do you say to companies like John Deere who say these tariffs are hurting them?
Well, first of all, Kristen, if you're quoting the New York Times, that's not a fair observer. And
it's the Goldman Sachs, it's New York Times. Attack the source. That to me is the lowest form of argument. That is the lowest form of argument. I honestly don't care if you get your information from the Reichstag Times. If bottom line, disprove the fact or don't. I'm not interested in where it came from. It's irrelevant. There are very few sources of information that are not compromised in one way or the other.
Right.
It's a nonsense argument.
Statistics.
That's
this is about John Deere, not about the New York Times.
That's one company that they have cherry picked. At Treasury, we have about 2 management teams come through a day, and overwhelmingly, we are hearing from companies they plan to increase CapEx, they plan to increase employment. We are seeing a record amount, what's going to be a record amount of foreign direct investment. And for every John Deere, we have companies who are telling us the tariffs have helped our business. We're increasing.
Who are they? Who
Yeah,
are they?
where?
Where are they?
Yeah.
Name them.
Yeah.
You would think if businesses were telling you that, you'd be touting them and listing them. Notice how he doesn't mention any of these companies that are telling him this?
Increasing CapEx, and we're going to increase employment.
But, Mr. Secretary, it's not just John Deere. We've heard from a lot of different companies around the country. Nike says that tariffs will cost the company around $1 billion this year. Black & Decker says $800 million. The big three automakers all say they've had to pay more than $2 billion in tariffs. The list goes on and on. Bottom line, do you acknowledge that these tariffs amount to a tax on the American people?
Well, first of all, let's back up, because what we've seen, for instance, the Japanese automakers have said they're eating the tariffs. So
but these companies say they're eating the tariffs. These American companies.
They're eating the tariffs. So, and again, there are numerous companies who are doing the opposite. You know, you're taking these from earnings calls, and on earnings calls, they have to give the draconian scenario. There aren't.
I met with a gentleman yesterday who wholesales Confederate flags out of his storage unit, and he says he had a terrific summer. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, he's just completely full of shit. So he's conflating the fact that the Japanese have decided, as you would expect from the Japanese, given their disposition to support their companies at all costs, they're going to eat the tariffs and wait out Trump so that their car companies don't collapse. But that doesn't mean, that has nothing, as he knows very well. He's a very smart guy. He knows very well that when you're talking about these American car companies absorbing tariffs, you're talking about something completely different. They're absorbing tariffs from the materials they need to build their cars. It's two completely different subjects, and he's conflating them because he's a fucking psychopathic liar who crashed the British pound, causing untold misery, and went on to be celebrated for it in certain quarters. Supposedly not the quarters that support Trump, but they seem to have forgotten that part.
Right.
Now, what Bessent is looking forward to, what they're all looking forward to, is they're hoping that they can get this guy, this fruitcake, confirmed in the Senate. This is who they want to run the statistics. E.J. Antoni looks like a magician who is about to underwhelm the shit out of you. That's one of my favorite tweets of all time. So this is Jessica Rydell, no lefty. She's at the Manhattan Institute, very libertarian Ayn Rand inspired Manhattan Institute. I've never met E.J. Antoni because he is not seen in many DC policy circles. However, the articles and tweets I've seen him publish are probably the most error-filled of any think tank economist right now. I hope we see better at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He's at the Heritage Foundation. And this is Joey Politano. We got into this in a previous segment. An economist so dumb, I had to explain to him how the import price index works last month will now lead the BLS. Kill me. Okay, you know how dumb you'd have to be to not understand this? I was able to very quickly understand it, and I'm not a math person. Antoni said that because the import price index had not gone up, that meant that the tariffs were being absorbed by the overseas manufacturers and not the consumers. And it's exactly the opposite. It would go up if they were paying it. The fact that it's not going up means we're paying it. Even I understood that. And
Right.
really, I am not math oriented. This guy is the person they want running the Bureau of Labor Statistics. All right. So finally, Welker, to her credit, she seemed to do a pretty good job here. She asked him about the crash in manufacturing jobs.
The president said that these tariffs are going to spark a manufacturing renaissance, he called it. But since he announced them in April, the U.S. has actually lost 42,000 manufacturing jobs. Are these numbers proof that the tariffs are failing to produce the manufacturing jobs that President Trump promised?
Again, Kristen, it's been a couple of months, and with the manufacturing sector, as you know, we can't snap our fingers and have factories built. So what we are seeing is a record amount
really? You don't say.
Investment intentions.
No one had thought of
We've seen
that.
a CapEx boom in the first half of the year, and I think that was actually held back. The One Big Beautiful Bill, which has full expensing for factories and equipment, was passed on July 4th. Many companies were holding back then. So we are going to see construction jobs and we're going to see manufacturing jobs.
But Mr. Secretary, the economy did add nearly 500,000 manufacturing jobs under former President Biden. In this case, since April, again, you're actually losing manufacturing jobs. Is that problematic for your policy?
Well, a couple of things, Chris. We're going to get the revisions for last year next week, and there may be as big as an 800,000 job downward revision. Again, this would be the second downward revision, so I'm not sure what these people who collect the data have been doing. It's good. We need good data. Secondly, what we are seeing is the jobs that are being created are going to either native-born or legal Americans. Most of the jobs created under the Biden administration, they went to illegal aliens.
Well, and I think that there would be a lot of debate over the fact that they went to illegal aliens. But let's keep moving.
No.
Let's,
That's the fact.
okay, let's keep moving though, because I want to talk about what.
That's the fact. That's the fact. Don't you think if that's the fact? Look, this is a very smart guy. This is a guy who literally crashed the British currency, right? This is not a dumb guy. Do you think if he had a shred of evidence for that, he wouldn't produce it? He wouldn't have it right off the top of his head. Well, look at this paper. Look at this number. Look at this. Look at this. Go to this website. No, that is what happened. The man, like most of the people in power, frankly, it's not a partisan thing. These people are psychopaths. And I keep saying, and we're going to see this on the other side more. I've got a B side of this. These people want you dead. They don't need this large population of useless eaters anymore. It's very funny. It's very funny that so much of what Trump's base thought they were voting against is actually what they voted for.
Yes, 100%.
You think a guy like Scott Bessent doesn't see you as a useless eater? You think this guy who didn't care about what it would do to the average British person to crash their currency, you think he cares about workers? Now I'm going to show you this clip. We're going to show on the other side too. This is Bessent being honest. Every now and then, even a psychopath like Bessent, smart psychopath, makes a mistake and in an unguarded moment tells the truth. He's lying. He knows that these factories, even if and when they are built, are not going to give you jobs. And he demonstrates that he knows that in his interview with Tucker a few months ago.
You've obviously thought this through. You think that the United States has the necessary labor force for this transition?
I think we do. I think with AI, with automation, with so many of these factories are going to be new. They're going to be smart factories. That I think we've got all the labor force we need.
He didn't miss a beat. He didn't miss a beat. He didn't go to, we've got a lot of Americans out there who need jobs, who are willing to work. No. Where did he go? Right away. AI, these are going to be smart factories. It's going to be automation. Of course it is. Of course it is. Listen, Americans don't realize this. We're living in a fucking third world country compared to a lot of Asia. We're going to, on the B side of this, we're going to take a look at that. They are so far beyond us technologically. And, people like Bessent, people like Elon, they travel. They know most Americans don't. They know what's out there. And that's what they want here. But what they want here is a feudalism version of what they have there. In their version of it, they're going to reap the benefits And, they'll keep around what small labor force they still need that they can't automate. That the fingers on the robots aren't quite dexterous enough yet to do certain things. Maybe, you'll have to, untangle yarn, maybe that'll be a job or whatever that the robot can't do. And they want the rest of you fucking dead. That's why they want to take away your health care. They want you to die. They literally want you to die. They do not need you. Having a large, unemployed, starving population, historically, that's not good for a ruling class, right? 1789, all that. They don't want to wind up getting marched to the contraption, we'll call it here for YouTube. They want you dead before you come for them. That is honestly what a lot of this is about. And I'm gonna show you how far out ahead, for those of you who don't know, China is, and what terms they are thinking in.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you actually invest in your country and your people, as opposed to investing in a military footprint around the world, or $400 million ice jails built on swamps in the Florida Everglades that you then have to close down because they're illegal, right? I mean, we did the story about Alligator Alcatraz and the loss that they're taking. They're taking what, a $218 million loss. That high-speed rail project that we showed in that segment cost $70 million. That was, I think, in Japan. So, do the math, right? I mean, if you invest in war and incarceration as opposed to infrastructure and transportation and education and healthcare, this is the society that you get. And it's a society that we have built for ourselves. And I think ultimately, the population at large is complicit to some degree in this. Obviously, not all people. And that's one of the things that really resonated about what O'Malley was talking about. How a lot of people who live in this country are colonized by this country. They're not here
Right.
because they wanted to be. They're not here
Right.
because they love it here. They're here because they are colonized people. So, I have sympathy for them. As for the rest of us, yeah, we are reaping what we have sown, and it is not pretty, and it's going to get worse.
Please clap.